So, guys, the ANC is not happy at all about the DA, Patriotic Alliance, and ACDP for sending some of their people to Israel on a fact-finding mission. We know that the ANC and other organizations have basically accused Israel of committing genocide in Gaza. And we know one of the reasons why there's tension between the ANC and the Trump administration is because of the very same issue. We know, everybody knows how the Americans feel about Israel. And the fact that Ramaphosa's administration took Israel to the International Court of Justice. This is the reason why. This is the real reason why the Americans are actually pissed off with the African National Congress. And the ANC says that we are not going to drop this case. We are not going to drop this case, despite the president of the ANC, Cyril Ramaphosa, coming out and saying that I want to sit down with Donald Trump. I want us to actually cut a deal. But the people are saying that Donald Trump is not going to cut a deal with you, because these people are pissed off with the fact that you took Israel to court. Israel is one of their biggest allies. You took Israel to court. And the fact that you're still doubling down on what you said, these people are not going to cut a deal with you. But somehow, the president of the ANC, Cyril Ramaphosa, believes that there's a way that him and the president of the US can cut a deal. So we are yet to see if that is going to happen. So these three political parties, the DA, Patriotic Alliance, and the ACDP, are saying, fine. You guys are saying that Israel is committing genocide in Gaza. We are going to send our people there to see it themselves and come back with a report. And truth of the matter is that these political parties are not the only political parties that have actually sent their people to Israel on a fact-finding mission. A lot of political parties throughout the world have actually sent their people to Israel to see what is actually happening between Israel and Gaza. A lot, instead of depending on the mainstream media and what the political analysts are saying, a lot of political parties have actually sent their people there. So what the DA, the Patriotic Alliance, and ACDP is doing, it is not new. It is just that the ANC, it is not happy about it, because right now the ANC is accusing these political parties and saying that no, these political parties are not sending their people to Israel on a fact-finding mission. These people are sending their people to Israel to basically condone what Israel has been doing to Gaza. So this is the criticism of the ANC towards these political parties. So according to this article, it says that the ANC has condemned the unsanctioned trip by the Democratic Alliance, Patriotic Alliance, and ACDP to Israel. The three political parties sent their members on a quote fact-finding mission. In 11-minute Facebook video recorded in Israel and posted around Sunday, 6th April, Patriotic Alliance member Ashley Souls told his followers, "We have already met a governor. We are going to meet the president. We are not going to meet the Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, but we are going to meet the president, so keep your fingers crossed." The video has been deleted. The ANC said that the secret trip was an endorsement of racism and oppression in Israel. So this is what the ANC is saying. That no, these people are not sending their members of parliament to Israel. They are basically sending their members of parliament to Israel to endorse what Israel has been doing. The ANC said the secret trip was an endorsement of racism and oppression in Israel. So what I think about the ANC has been saying is that if you guys believe in what you say, if you guys are resolute about what you've said about Israel, the DA, Patriotic Alliance, and ACDP sending their people to Israel, it should not worry you. It should not worry you. If you know for a fact that Israel is committing genocide in Gaza, then you should not be worried. Because if these political parties come back and say that the ANC was right, then you guys would be vindicated. But it seems like the ANC is not happy they are not happy at all. They want their narrative at all costs. They are not happy at all with these people. So ANC Study Group on International Relations and Cooperation Chief Whip Andisiwe Kumbaca said, quote, "The ANC unequivocally condemns the recent trip to Israel by members of the Democratic Alliance, Patriotic Alliance, and ACDP who have self-identified as South African friends of Israel." They are not happy at all. So, quote, The visit, presented as a fact-finding mission, constitutes a clear endorsement of Israel's policies of racial segregation and oppression, while attempting to downplay the lived realities of apartheid-like conditions faced by the Palestinians. She said ANC rejects the false and misleading claims made by these political parties, which include the assertion that there is no evidence of apartheid in Israel and that the state is a vibrant, progressive, multiracial and multi-ethnic society where the rights of all citizens are protected by the rule of law. So, clearly, in Lutuli House, they are not happy at all. Clearly in Lutuli House, they are not happy at all, and the ANC has actually released a statement, and in the statement, the ANC says that the ANC Study Group of International Relations and Cooperation strongly condemns the DA, Patriotic Alliance, and ACDP's endorsement of racism and oppression in Israel, disguised as a fact-finding mission. The African National Congress unequivocally condemns the recent visit to Israel by the members of the DAPA and ACDP who have self-identified as a South African friend of Israel. This visit, presented as a fact-finding mission, constitutes a clear endorsement of Israel's policies of racial segregation and oppression, while attempting to downplay the lived realities of apartheid-like conditions in Israel. So, this is what we have read before. In reaffirming its commitment to the principles of justice, equality, and human dignity, the ANC is speaking about justice, equality, and human dignity. The ANC Study Group stands resolute against any attempt to legitimize or normalize the oppressive actions of Israel government. We call on all political leaders, both in South Africa and internationally, to uphold the values of human rights and solidarity with the people of Palestine, and to work towards a just and lasting peace based on equality, freedom, and dignity for all. We stand resolute against any attempt to whitewash the oppression and suffering of the people of Palestine. We reject these baseless claims and reaffirm our commitment to dismantling all forms of racial and political injustice. So I don't understand if the ANC is so offended by these political parties actually visiting Israel. What actually makes them think that the people were happy with the fact that they have met Hamas? I don't get it. I don't get it. If you guys, like you always say, that we are non-aligned, you should be able to condemn Hamas. You should be able to condemn Hamas. If you are going to go out and condemn Israel of how they've actually reacted against Hamas, then you should also be able to condemn Hamas. Because you can't tell me that it is okay for Hamas to get into Israel and start killing people, and when Israel retaliates, and you say that, no, we are only going to condemn Israel. We know that this is something that has been happening for a very long time. And this is the reason why we are saying that at this point, maybe the ANC should take their own advice. You remember Fikile Mbalula, the Secretary General of the ANC, saying that Donald Trump should not interfere in the things that are happening in South Africa. We don't want Donald Trump to interfere in the issues of South Africa. Maybe it is time that the ANC basically takes their own advice, because what is happening in the Middle East, it is something that has been happening for a very long time. And for the ANC to think that they can solve what is happening in the Middle East, like, it is a joke. It is a joke. I honestly believe that this is something that can actually be solved by the people in the Middle East. I don't think that the people in the Middle East, they actually need the ANC to help them solve their problems. And again, the countries in the Middle East are not taking the stand that the ANC is taking. And why is that not a worry to the African National Congress? Why is that not a worry? Because some of these countries in the Middle East, they know the history of Israel and Palestine. They know of what have been happening. And this is very complex. They know that, but they have not taken the stand that the ANC has taken. They've released the statements, they have condemned this, they have condemned that, but they have not taken the position that the ANC has taken. I don't understand, because the people in the Middle East, they understand this conflict way better than we can. They understand this conflict way better than we can. But for them to actually believe that they can solve these problems, it is naive of them. It is naive of them to try to make it look like, yeah, we can play a very important role in a war that has been happening for God knows when. It is naive. So I saw a very interesting interview on television where the political analyst, Professor Nzikilolo Breakfast, was actually speaking about this and saying that the ANC should understand that they are not longer in charge of this country. So for them to actually condemn other political parties for doing things like this, that time is over. The ANC, it is not in charge of this country anymore. The ANC, they are not the majority. They are a 40% political party right now. They are a 40% political party right now, and they should understand that they no longer call the shots. They no longer call the shots.
Welcome back. The ANC has slammed some members of parliament for a trip they took to Israel, saying they clearly endorsed Tel Aviv's policies. Those who went on the privately funded trip include the PA's Ashley Saul and Millicent Matupa, DA's Nicholas Maiber and Bridget Masango, and the ACDP's Stephen Swart. Israel has been accused of committing crimes against humanity by the International Criminal Court for its part in a war with Hamas in the Gaza Strip. Political analyst Dr. Nzikilelo Breakfast joins us for more. Doc, thank you so much for your time this evening. Now, the GNU is made up of a melting pot of ideologies. Is it surprising that instances such as this visit from the MPs may occur?
Of course not. I think we must bear in mind that one-party dominance is a thing of the past, and that the hegemony of the ANC of late has been dealt with the blow in a big way. So I don't think that it is fair and square for one political party to frame a discourse on matters of foreign policy by itself without getting a buy-in of other political parties that it is in partnership with. I think the ANC maybe is punching above its weight if it argues that foreign policy is a no-go area. It cannot be a no-go area if the ANC did not win the elections outrightly.
Exactly. This is what we are saying, that the ANC cannot dictate to other political parties what they can do anymore. They cannot dictate. They didn't win the elections. And this is something that the ANC is struggling to deal with. The fact that they didn't win the elections. You didn't win the elections. So you cannot tell other political parties what to do anymore. That time, it is over. That time, it is over.
But this is I would say it's an ideological matter because of the philosophical outlooks of these political parties. I think they need to sit at the table and try to find each other in terms of how they project the domestic values on a global scale, instead of, crossing swords in public about matters of international relations.
I mean, the DA spokesperson, Okam, said, we do not monitor the private trips of members, therefore we're not in a position to provide any details. So in that instance, what is the significance of MPs conducting personal fact-finding missions, particularly in a politically tense region like Israel?
Look, under normal circumstances, that should not have happened because the DA is in a coalition arrangement with the ANC or a GNU, whatever you call it. So it's unfortunate that it went to Israel without the knowledge of the other GNU partner. But then one can argue and say it did that in its own private capacity. Therefore, it did not need any permission. Of course, again, one might argue and say maybe it was due to the frustration of making statements that are falling on deaf ears when it wants to propose ideas to the ANC. But this is going to continue being a very a contentious matter, given the fact that these parties, they've got different world outlooks. The DA is a liberal party, the ANC is a broad church, centrist party that historical relations with what they call progressives or like-minded political parties on a global scale. The ANC was supported by the people of Palestine. It was supported by China, Russia, and other progressive countries. Therefore, it pledges solidarity or allegiance to those countries. No wonder it supports the struggle of the people of Palestine. But on the other hand, you have the DA that looks up to the US, to other European countries. And because no political party won the elections recently, therefore the ANC and the DA are forced to work side by side, and they need to compromise on some issues.
You're speaking about compromise on some issues. You remember Fikile Mbalula last week basically mocking the DA and saying that, when have you ever seen the ANC bending over to accommodate the DA? So that statement alone was enough to tell you that the ANC is not a party that actually compromises. The ANC, it is not a party that compromises. And they have made it very clear. And the ANC not winning the elections and trying to project their views as the views of all South Africans, it is unfair. You guys didn't win the elections. You didn't win the elections. The people of this country didn't give you a mandate to go out and speak on our behalf. Nobody gave the ANC the mandate to speak on behalf of the people of this country. So to fight other political parties and pretend like what you are saying, it is what all South Africans believe, it is a lie. It is a lie. It is a lie. So the ANC cannot compromise. They cannot compromise. They cannot compromise. So anybody who actually believes that the ANC can sit down with their partners in the GNU and say that, guys, how are we going to approach these matters of international? How are we going to approach these matters? And actually listen to other political parties and what other political parties are saying. Anybody who believes that the ANC can do that, it is naive. Very naive. The ANC, it is not going to do that. They are not going to do that. The ANC have actually made it very clear on what they stand for and what they are willing to fight for. They have made it very clear. They've made it very clear. Because right now, the ANC, as a political party that didn't win the elections, who did they inform when they went out and met with the leaders of Iran? Who did they inform when they met with the leaders of Hamas? They didn't need a permission of anybody else. And these people didn't win the elections. You didn't win the elections. You are doing as you please. So why are you fighting other political parties when they do as they please? Because none of these political parties have actually won the elections. Why is it so hard for the people there in Luthuli House to understand that, guys, we didn't win the elections? The people of this country didn't give us a mandate. So we can no longer speak on behalf of the people of this country, because the people of this country have told us through the elections that you can no longer speak on our behalf anymore. You can no longer speak on our behalf anymore. So it would have made sense if the ANC, the DA, and other partners in the GNU, they sat down and actually agreed that, guys, this is the position that we are going to take when we are approaching these matters. And the DA goes out of the way, and the ANC comes out and criticizes the DA. It would have made sense, because they would say that, guys, we sat down as a team, we sat down as the government of national unity and said, these are the positions that we are going to take. We have listened to everybody in the table and actually came to a conclusion that this is the position that we are going to take when we are tackling these matters. But this is not what the ANC is doing. The ANC, when it comes to some of these matters, they are making the decisions alone. They are making the decisions alone and speaking on behalf of the people of this country as if the people of this country have actually gave them the mandate. We didn't give them the mandate. They didn't win the elections. They have actually lost the elections. They have lost the elections. So what actually makes them think that they can still represent the people of this country, the whole people of this country, when the people of this country didn't give them the mandate? Make it make sense. Make it make sense. So the professor is telling the truth that it is time that they sit down as the government of national unity and actually agree on how they are going to tackle some of these issues. Because if they don't sit down and agree on how they are going to deal with these matters, they are going to fight constantly about these things. They are going to fight constantly about these things. And the ANC needs to understand that they didn't win the elections. They didn't win the elections, and it is hard for them to understand. I know it is very hard for the African National Congress to understand that we didn't win the elections. So go back to the table and actually start treating your partners, the GNU partners, as your partners instead of just treating your GNU partners as, I don't know, doormats. Because this is what the ANC has been doing. They have been treating the GNU partners as doormats, showing them no respect at all. Showing them no respect at all. You remember Gayton McKenzie was out crying that the ANC, they are implementing some of the policies and they didn't even speak with them. They didn't say anything to us, but they are out implementing the policies. They are out implementing the policies. Gayton McKenzie was crying and saying that Cyril Ramaphosa has no respect for them and other members of the GNU. He was crying. So if the ANC is still going to be ignorant and arrogant about how they approach these measures, if the ANC still believes that they have won the elections, then these things are going to happen. It is not going to be, it is not the last time that we are going to speak about this. They are still going to happen. They are still going to happen because you have a political party that struggles to understand that they didn't win the elections.
Do you think it's coincidental that this Israeli trip would take place during a time where we are seeing AfriForum having their trips and meetings with the West, the US, some of the conversations that they have been having? Is it coincidental, or do you think there are very close interlinks between these two visits?
I don't think that it happened by accident. By contrast, I think it happened by a design. But also, I mean, the DA has been doing a lot of things that are questionable. For instance, before the general elections, they said that, I don't know, the European countries or America must deploy electoral observers because the ANC was going to rig the elections. So it has always looked up to Western countries, and really this is a very complicated relationship that it has now with the ANC that wants to consolidate the relations amongst the global South countries. So they really need to be matured and open up about how to craft a foreign policy. I think there's a need for a rethinking of the foreign policy posture of the country.
So with that said then, Doc, there wouldn't necessarily be then any potential political ramifications for those MPs that were involved in this fact-finding mission, especially given the ANC's condemnation?
No, I mean, of course not. I mean, you can't institute a disciplinary process against.
And again, who will discipline those members of parliament? Who will discipline those members of parliament? Such a silly question, man.
I mean, there won't be any basis to do that because those members of parliament, they belong to their own political parties. So I think it will be off the mark to do that. But I think it's quite unfortunate that these political parties who belong to the same government tend to cross swords in public because it doesn't paint a good picture about the GNU or the coalition arrangement that they have. They need to speak with the same voice, especially on matters of foreign policy, so that they convey the same message on a global scale.
So we know that this weekend the D and the ANC have been in discussions, and between the two of them we hear certain statements coming out. I mean, a possible reconfiguration of the GNU, constructive and robust discussions, further processes to be developed. Reading between the lines, what do you make of these engagements?
From my standpoint, I think it's quite clear which way the wind is blowing, that these political parties are going to kiss and make up. I think they just need to clarify the statement of intent because there seems to be different understandings in terms of some of the clauses in that document. But conflict is a natural phenomenon. Where there are human beings, there are problems. It's normal in any coalition setup that there will be ups and downs, moments of madness, but the key thing is to make sure that there is a conflict resolution, a mechanism to address, controversial issues. But there's nothing peculiar about not speaking the same language from time to time. There is no coalition arrangement on a global scale which is perfect. Even the ones in Europe, they have moments of madness.
Of course.
So guys, what do you think, man? What do you think about this whole thing of the ANC fighting with other political parties about this trip that they made to Israel? Do you think that it is okay for the ANC to condemn these political parties, or do you think that these political parties are within their right to do as they please? What do you think, guys? What do you think? Please tell me what you think in the comment section. Don't forget to hit that like button. The most important part, subscribe. My name is Thomas Mabaso. I will see you next time. Bye-bye.